I wanted to share a snippet from the November 2016 Scientific American pertaining to how children learn languages. And in that article, which I'll reference in the description of this video, the authors indicate that the idea that we have brains hardwired with a mental template for learning grammar is basically not any longer considered to be the accurate model as to how kids learn language. Instead, new research shows that young children use various types of thinking that may not be specific to language at all, such as the ability to classify the world into categories, people or objects, for example, and to understand the relationship among things. These capabilities, coupled with a unique human ability to grasp what others intend to communicate, allow language to happen. So what are the implications of this contemporary research finding? If this hypothesis is valid and turns out to be true, it has significant implications, I think, for helping us understand the basic dilemma, or one of the basic dilemmas that we have in perceiving reality from a non-dualistic perspective. If the nature of our brain is such that it categorizes, breaks things down into this versus that, and if that attribute then is a root cause for why language is the way it is, again, being dualistic in the sense of breaking things down into this versus that, it helps us understand why it's so difficult for humans to experience non-dual consciousness, non-dual awareness, mystical experience, a sense of our interconnectedness, a sense of the nature of the reality that is more fundamental than that which our mundane way of perceiving the world tends to cause us to believe it is. But going a step further in looking toward some of the Prajnaparamita Sutras, the sense of wisdom as it's articulated within Mahayana Buddhist philosophy and practice, to truly transcend dualism, we have to say that reality is neither dualistic nor non-dualistic. In other words, that it's important not to become attached to emptiness or to non-emptiness. But because our common, ordinary way of perceiving is dualistic, in that we do break reality down into this versus that, me versus you, me versus Amita, in the sense, not versus in the sense of antagonistic, but versus in the sense of relation or comparison or being separate. If that is our ordinary way, then much Buddhism, much Buddhist literature, the sutras are designed to help us not be as trapped by the ordinary way of perceiving reality, which does tend to cause us to experience the nature of life as one where we as an individual are more isolated from our fellow human beings. Which of course then is a dynamic that the sociologists can tell you can lead to, in-groups and out-groups, us versus them, in a truly antagonistic framework that can result in conflict and violence and ultimately war. But again, we don't want to get hung up on non-dualism either. The fact of the matter is that the words that I'm using right now, which are based on language, which evolved as a function of the nature of my brain being able to categorize, has very limited ability to communicate, nor do all the Prajnaparamita Sutras have vast ability to communicate verbally the nature of fundamental reality. But they can be a finger pointing to the moon, and in that sense they have great value. Now, from the other point of view, that neither dualism nor non-dualism accurately characterizes reality, we can say, well, it's not necessarily a bad thing to view reality in a dualistic way for a couple of reasons. One is very practical. In other words, the fact that our brains are wired to help us think and create a language even as a kid by which we can categorize things and thereby be more effective in effect, manipulating them toward a sense of usefulness for us as individuals and as a society. That's tremendously valuable. But in a spiritual realm, it also means that to communicate teachings in a dualistic way, such as Renyo has done in the context of a more concrete portrayal of the person of faith and Amida Buddha who beckons to us and has made a vow to give us access to rebirth in his pure land when we die. Pretty dualistic stuff, but that's okay. And the reason it's okay is because it provides comfort, it hurts no one, and most importantly, it resonates as true. It's the idea that, we're dealing perhaps with a myth, but with a myth that resonates. The myth is not, strictly speaking, a lie or a falsehood, and as the Lotus Sutra says, it's appropriate to utilize expedient means to help beings to make progress on the spiritual path, to enhance their sense of satisfaction, happiness, and to have a level of comfort about what the future holds, even in the context of the dukkha, the uncertainty, the suffering that is so often present in human life. So in terms of provisional means, in terms of expedient means, in terms of tactfulness, well, you can say that the story about Dharmakara Bodhisattva becoming Amida and having a land in the western part of the universe is an expedient means. But keep in mind that you can also portray Prajnaparamita and Sunyata and that whole framework as being a form of expedient means. Again, the idea that no way of breaking the world down, no dualistic perspective can really articulate definitively who we are, what we are, the environment in which we live, and the amazing opportunity we have as human beings to breathe, to live, to help each other, to make a difference in the course of this mysterious universe. Namo Mita Butsu, Namo Mita Butsu, Namo Mita Butsu.